Welcome, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Anna, and I'm a senior marketing specialist at the University of Tartu, and I will be your host today. I am very happy to welcome you to the Alumni Talks 2023 event. And this is our new series where our fantastic alumni share their stories of studying at the University of Tartu and give a short lecture on the topic they have selected. Today with me, I have our dear speaker, alumna from our program of master's program in international technology law, Isabela. Isabela is a Brazilian attorney specializing in agreements, IP, digital law, and data protection. And her talk today will be international innovation, exercises in assisting startup growth in Brazil and Estonia. Before we begin with the slides, I would like to point out a few technical moments. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, you can leave them under the Q&A box. If you have any technical difficulties, please let us know about that. We will try to resolve them as fast as possible. Regarding your questions, we are going to address them at the end of the webinar, so do not hesitate to leave them at any point. And we're also recording today's webinar, so you are going to receive this recording after the webinar in the follow-up email. So now I guess it's time to start with our wonderful talk, and I will give a floor to Isabela. Isabela, please, you can share your screen and start your talk. I think you are muted.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. And hello, everyone. Thanks first of all for joining us. And let me just open my screen and we can start. I hope everyone is seeing it. Good. So, okay. So as said, we're going to talk a little bit about my experience in the master's. How did I apply my knowledge from the IT law master's in my work through international innovation and the experience that I had assisting startup growth in Brazil and in Estonia. So just to give a little bit more of my introduction, yes, I'm from the class of 2020. I graduated 2020 from the master's in IT law. I'm a Brazilian attorney. I'm based in São Paulo, working in a full service law firm called Chicarino, Quaresma, and Tanaka Advogados. And I specialize in data protection, digital law, agreements, and IP. So to start our talk, I'd like to say a little bit about my experience right before the program and how it led me to the program. In 2019, when I decided to apply for a master's, I was associate at a Brazilian law firm. I was already working with this subject, so for agreements, IP, digital law, and all these innovation-related areas. But I wanted something more. I had already done postgraduate in the area, but I wanted more knowledge of the topics that I like to work with. I also desired to learn more from outside perspectives, not only the Brazilian and Latin America perceptions of law. I wanted to see different opinions, different legal systems, and also to have the opportunity to develop skills that were not necessarily available at the moment where I was. And with all of this, I decided, okay, this is time to look for a master's program. And then start looking at the map. I end up very close to home, 10,000 kilometers from there. And one thing people always ask me about, like, okay, but how did you get from Brazil to Estonia? From all the programs and all the law masters available, what attracted you to Tartu? And there are many reasons that resulted in my decision to study at University of Tartu. First of all, when I decided to do my master's, I was looking for a program that had an EU focus by the time I started the search, Brazil had just approved data protection regulation, our LGPD, so, which borrowed heavily from the GDPR. So I knew that I would like to study in the EU to see how the data protection legislation and practices and judgments, everything was happening, because Brazil would definitely take a lot of inspiration and our cases would be similar. And once I started looking at the EU and searching for IT law programs, I arrived at the description of the program at Tartu University. And then I started to search about Estonia, because at that moment I didn't know much. I knew that it existed. I have heard about Skype related to Estonia. I have heard about your residency. But once I found the program, I started looking into it and seeing how Estonia is a reference in IT. Digital governance was one of the first countries, if not the first, to allow e-voting. The level of digital services, that over 96% of the services are digital, the most, as the highest number of unicorns per capita. And all of this showed me that it was a very interesting environment to study, not only because of the course itself, but also because I would be immersed in this environment that would be very interesting to observe. And finally, I was looking for a program that had more of a practical focus. A lot of masters were really focused on the theory, and you're just going to the motions in law studies. And as someone that actively practice, at that point, I have been working as a lawyer for 5 years. I wanted something that would give me additional skills. And the program in Tartu, for those that haven't yet seen the program, has a lot of subjects that they're not necessarily legal, in addition to IP, IT contracts, cyber defense. We have programs that have more technical focus. So we have information security, programming, introduction to programming as a mandatory subject, ICT fundamentals, and many others that for me kind of add up to you as a professional. So you're not only learning the law, you understand why the law is like this and what are the needs of your client. So when I saw all of this and that the program in Tartu had all these elements, these were the main reasons why I decided to apply for the program. But of course, there are many others. Living in Estonia is a great experience. Living in Tartu, the university has a very interesting structure and programs, and gives you some freedom that some programs don't give you. So I think everyone has their own reasons why they chose Tartu. These are just the ones that I focus on. And then when I was looking for the program, there were some questions that I had, and I believe some might have the same questions. So the first of all that I thought was, okay, but is the program is only going to be focused in Estonia, or so I'm going to be only studying Estonian law? How is it structured? And no, the program has an EU focus, of course, and Estonia is the base example to say that some exercises you're going to consider the EU legislation as applied by Estonia, but you're always looking like having this more general focus. And even some discussions go more international. The program is made of many international people from different backgrounds, different levels of studies, professional focuses. So, for example, in my cohort, we have people from Chile, Colombia, Brazil, Portugal, Ukraine, Russia. So we could, India, so we could really bring our own experiences and presented as cases. And of course, some specific cases you do analyze the American experience, international precedent. So you're not limited in that regard. The program also allows you to look for optative courses outside of the base program, the mandatory ones that you have to complete. So for example, I had the opportunity to do a course in AI and law. but also there were many other courses not related to law available. There were some colleagues that applied to programming 2, because we only have the programming 1 as mandatory, history, folklore, language, semiotics. There are very many options in English, but of course it's important to be aware of the workload. The program for me has a very balanced workload, but still you have a lot of reading that you need to do. The classes require attention, so just keep in mind what you can do. Another question that I had was, how can I apply this knowledge during the studies? Was there any opportunity to do so? And yes, there was. The program had a legal clinic that was mandatory on the second semester of the course, so we would provide an IT law clinic providing legal services to tech companies. Most were based in Estonia, but we even had the opportunity to work with clients outside of Estonia. For example, I helped a Brazilian company to the legal clinic, so you can really apply everything that you're learning about innovation, contracts necessary to opening a startup, e-services, how do you implement this, data protection. And also in Estonia, you have the possibility to work while you're studying. Some countries I know that limits what you can do with a student visa, but in Estonia, provided it doesn't affect your studies, you can look for internships and opportunities to do things at the same time. And finally, a question that I think a lot of people have is that, are there opportunities after you graduate? And definitely yes. On my own cohort, I have friends that found interesting opportunities in the Estonian market. Both Estonians and foreigners found opportunities. Have many friends that had promotions or change of jobs in their native market, because you can definitely apply the skills. Like I said, this is not only focused on working the Estonian market, you gain as a lawyer internationally, and there are also the opportunities that you develop yourself, which is a little bit what we're going to talk today. So after doing the master's, did I achieve the goal that I had to keep in my knowledge, learn from different perspectives, achieve new skills? Definitely. All these goals were achieved and more. So the quality of the work that I was providing, because again, I was already working as a lawyer. And one thing interesting to say is that there's not one specific profile that can benefit from this program. I had colleagues that were working as attorneys and lawyers for 20 years. I had colleagues that had just graduated or got their base legal masters in their own country. Had people working for companies, people working for government, prosecutors, so everyone can benefit from this. And I did in that regard, definitely changed increase the quality of my work, but it also provides new opportunities. And definitely for me, one opportunity that I found was analyzing the flux between Brazil and Estonia, because Brazil has a lot of proximity with Estonia the past few years than most people realize, and we're going to get a little bit into that. So first of all, my day-to-day, what do I work with, and how does this is connected to the master's? And honestly, every single thing that I do with my work is somehow connected to the master's. So I work with agreements in general, a lot of agreements with suppliers, clients, different types of agreements, service providers, supply partnerships. So, and we have a specific subject in the course regarding IT contracts. IP is also very much approached the program. I work heavily with IP, with trademarks and software, know-how, trade dress. A lot of data protection, which is also a very interesting course that we have in the master's. Consumer rights, digital law, so liability for service providers, internet providers, app providers, the structure of, we see structure of innovation and business. So new companies that have a different business model, a different structure, and how we can establish that, guarantee founders' rights, establish all the documents. all of this is directly connected to the master's. So I definitely took things immediately, and many other subjects, because I like to say that I work with everything that is new and interesting. And definitely the master's increased that. So crypto, NFTs, anything that works with this innovation, I am very privileged that I can work with that. And when working with that, naturally, because of my connection to Estonia, we start getting questions with other, even some clients were curious about oh, you work with Estonia, you studied in Estonia, we know about the ecosystem, we think it's so interesting, maybe we can expand through that. And from the other side, I had course mates in Estonia and people that I met while I was here that had many questions about Brazil as a market. And hearing this and keep many times, we start thinking because when I went back, I assumed a position of senior associate in the law firm where I work today. With my partners, I started talking. They're like, okay, there is something in this relation between Brazil and Estonia. There's naturally an affinity, and there is a movement happening, but we can definitely work on this. So one of the first things we realized is that Brazilian founders look at Estonia and the favorable tax corporate situation. So Estonia is a most efficient tax system in the world, how easy it is to open a company, to e-residency. You can even open it outside of Estonia, digitally, click of a button, that all the digital services that are available, like I said before, 96-97% of the services in Estonian are available digitally. The fact that Estonia is inside the EU, and so it's like a door for the European market and also a great ecosystem to develop and innovate and incubate new business. And recently, because Estonia, especially during the pandemic, was appearing a lot on Brazilian news about e-residency, digital services, and all of this, this hype started appearing. On the other hand, Estonian companies would look at Brazil with the size over 200 million inhabitants, the size of the market, the economy is still very big, and they would be interested in expanding to the Brazilian market. But besides even though there was this mutual interest, there were problems, and we could see by talking to people and people approaching us that they were having issues, for example, with lack of information, because for the Brazilian that is interested in Estonia, the Estonian government has a lot of initiatives regarding divulging e-residency, talking about Startup Estonia and attracting foreign talent and enterprises founders. But on the side of Brazil, a lot of foreign companies had trouble with the lack of information, the fact that Brazil doesn't have all the information available in English, that they could not talk to anyone. There were some perceived cultural issues that they felt like, oh, maybe it's not as easy to expand as we thought. Oh, Brazil is so far away, so maybe it's easier to expand to other markets. And we could see that, no, there's actually a lot of possibility to help on both sides of this flux, because it should not be as hard, especially when you employ people that know about these issues between the two countries. So analyzing all of this and considering my experience by living in Estonia, working in Estonia, studying in Estonia, we decided to open a specific work front in the office. So now, in addition to all the work that we do for Brazilian companies, Latin American companies, we have clients from US, Asia, and other parts. We also decided to work with this for the soft landing of Brazilian companies in the European Union through Estonia, especially, and also Estonian, and then naturally start appearing other EU companies in Brazil. And how can this be done? How could we structure this? First of all, the strategic partnerships with EU professionals. One side of the master's that is very important for this project was the connections that were able to be made with colleagues and friends of colleagues that you naturally meet. So you have this network of lawyers, attorney, paralegal service providers that can help with the aspects on foreign law, because of course we are a Brazilian-based company. Also, definitely it was vital, all the knowledge that I acquired during my master's. Like I said, and I showed before, my practice is directly connected to everything that we work with the master's. With the advantage that since I studied EU law and the applications in Estonia, it was so much easier to connect and collaborate with my colleagues. I'm more aware of the discussions, and we can make sure that the solutions that we provide consider both the European legislation aspects that are going to influence and also Brazilian aspects, because this is a type of project that sometimes both legislation are applied. For example, data protection. A lot of times there's going both the GDPR and the LGPD are going to take their share, and you need to consider both sides. And also a lot of work was made through the help of information and outreach initiatives. So we work a lot with public and private stakeholders that aim to provide this awareness and connect these two sides better to reduce this gap between the countries. And throughout this work, we developed some cases that I would like to explain a little bit more in detail to show how did we develop this and how could we develop this using the knowledge that was obtained through my studies. So first of all, we were very privileged to help with a governmental project in Brazil. A few years ago, the state of PIAUÍ, located in the northeast of Brazil, decided to invest heavily in innovation and digital transformation. And this was a work that had many interesting fronts. And one of the fronts was that they would like to attract business and founders and companies from outside of the state, initially focusing on Brazil market only, so that Brazilian founders located in other states could open their company and their business in PIAUÍ, because they have the very interesting resources in their own ecosystem that could attract. So looking into the e-residence model, they asked if it would be possible for a person located outside the state open and operate a company easily. Well, for I think anyone that knows Estonia knows, the second thing they know about Estonia, besides the fact that it's in Europe, is the fact that Estonia has the e-residence program. It's such a big part of how Estonia is perceived outside for other countries. A lot of talk, usually when you talk about Estonia, people think of the e-residency program. And this is something that we definitely approach and study in the master's. We have a specific topic regarding e-services, and this is approached also in other subjects as well. So since we knew how the e-residency program worked, what were the requirements in Estonia for e-company registration, how was it possible that the Estonian model functioned so well, we were able to provide assistance for this government. We did the legal part by establishing a legal memorandum analyzing the viability of remote company opening and operation in the state, considering Brazil federal and local legislation. So this was a work that directly involved knowledge that I was able to obtain, applied to the Brazil on situation and market. Another interesting case that we see, and this is just one, but we see this case a lot, is connected to tax implications, because as the number of e-residents in Estonia coming from Brazil grow each year, a lot of founders have questions regarding tax, because at this moment there is not a double taxation avoidance treaty between both countries. So a lot of clients approach us saying that, oh, I want to become a new resident, or I'm already a new resident, and I still pay taxes in Brazil. I didn't do my tax exit, and I still pay the taxes here as well. What taxes do I have to pay? Is there double taxation, considering the lack of treaty. I know that Estonia doesn't, I know that Estonia tax dividends, but Brazil doesn't. So how can I declare this? Like, how do I consider the fact that Estonia, if you don't distribute profit, this is not tax? Anyway, because there are many different relevant differences in our tax systems. Brazil is such a complicated legal system. We have federal, state, municipal taxes, and then you come to Estonia that everything works so good. So although we don't have a specific taxation class in the masters as a main subject, we do approach this topic during the course. So OCDE rules and general examples of Estonian taxation, principles. And this was very much useful to have this discussion with the tax lawyers that we partner in Brazil, to explain what was happening on the other side, and then to try to structure the best model for the client. So to explain what are the tax implications for a Brazilian founder of an Estonian company, both in Brazil and Estonia, and also determining that based on which markets they wanted to work on, they wanted to provide services only to Brazil, only to Europe, to the US, what was the best structure for them. Another interesting case that we had was now going to the other side, so bringing an Estonian company to Brazil involved a company, in this case an European company that I met through Estonia that operates in the crypto market. They were thinking about expanding to Brazil, and they wanted to understand what would be the rules that they would be subject to regarding anti-money laundering and other regulatory provisions regarding crypto assets. And at that point, Brazil still hadn't a specific law regarding crypto assets. This had very recently changed. The law was approved, I think, in the last week of December or the week before that. But we already had decisions, some administrative courts analysis. We had our central bank with some opinions regarding it. So we provided an analysis for the client with what obligations they should follow, considering that this was best practice and that most likely the government would apply the same rules that other financial companies are subject to in Brazil, and also consider all this not laws but decisions and central bank and securities exchange rules that most likely would apply. And for this also the master's pro is important, because we do discuss crypto assets and EU rules regarding crypto and even crypto taxation, for example, talking about tax again and regulation, and what are the rules for regarding AML for crypto exchanges and other similar companies. So all of this provided a good angle for the analysis, because even though Brazil didn't have as much info, we could also see what was going on in the world and say, even though we don't have this legislation right now, we still have, considering the international experiences, we recommend that you also follow these rules. And in a compared law position, we can apply this in Brazil with this type of focus. And finally, we also did a lot of work regarding trademark and other types of IP, but right now let's focus on trademark for this case, because a lot of times Brazilian founders want to explore their business abroad and they don't really consider the trademark and IP implications of this, to bring your business abroad and think about the patents that they have or don't have sometimes. And trademark, I think, is the base example. They want to expand and then they think about the trademark and they don't know where to start. So in this particular example, a client looked for us and they were saying that they wanted to go to many, many countries all over the world. And they were calculating how much they would pay and which countries were best. And a lot of times people are not aware about the international treaties that exist regarding IP. which is also something that we do discuss in the masters a lot. We have moot courts connected to IP rights and how to defend regarding international registration, multiple registration in different countries. So with all this knowledge, we were able to develop a strategy for the client for registration of these trademarks. In this specific case, we used the Madrid Protocol, which is a relatively new addition to Brazil. I think we officially entered the protocol in 2018, 2019, and it's still not complete. There are still some issues to be solved with it, but this added a new possibility, so we could see and show that there are like alternatives that reduce the cost and provide a satisfactory solution to the client. And definitely going through the masters and analyzing these possibilities was very important. So to conclude all that I said, the program definitely provided me with not only the tools to help my clients better, to provide better legal work, but in my specific case, I was already working on this area, so it did increase this knowledge, but also allowed me to develop new projects that most likely I would not have thought of developing if I hadn't studied here. It definitely shows you that there's more to law than sometimes you see in your local market. And like I said, no one has just one experience with this program. I think if you speak to an IT law master's graduate, everyone has a different examples of how this affected their work and how they develop this. People go to completely different routes. I have had colleagues that were working as lawyers and now are working with cyber specialists in their home countries. So the program will have, if you decided to pursue your education in Tartu, have a direct impact on how your career structure, and most likely open the world to you in a way that you didn't think before. And this is about it. Thank you very much for listening to me. I saw already some questions in the chat here. I'm going to check them out. I provide also my contact information if anyone has any doubts, anything that you, for any reason, you don't think today, and then
Yes.
In like a day or two, you're like, oh, I should have asked this in the alumni talks. Please feel free to contact me through email or LinkedIn, and I'm here to help.
Thank you so much, Isabela, for your wonderful talk and for taking us through your journey of studying master's program at the University of Tartu and showing us real cases that you are conducting and reviewing right now. Thank you so much. If you can stop sharing your slides, that would be great. And we can start our Q&A session. And we have quite some questions. So let's start from the first one. Is it compulsory to have work experience for this course?
No, definitely not. Like I said, people from all different stages of their work and like professional come to here. I had course mates that had literally just graduated from their bachelor's in the countries where you just have the straight bachelor's. So 21-year-olds. I had course mates that, like me, had already been working in the field for a few years. I had some course mates that were working for governments for 10 years, 12 years. Course mates that have been working for 25 years in the private sector. And so definitely for those that have already been working, it's a great tool. For those that never worked in the field, is actually a good opportunity to start getting this work experience because of the legal clinic. The legal clinic for many of my colleagues was their first experience with working in the area. And it was even something to put in their resumes. And it teaches you, for example, how to do a timesheet, how to structure conversation with clients, how to set up deadlines. So it is very useful if you haven't worked before even.
Thank you so much. Let's move to the next question. Do I need to know the coding language to apply for the IT law?
Also, no, I didn't know. anything about programming before coming to Tartu, never touched any type of coding. And to explain a little bit more about that, the language that we use in the Programming 1 class is Python, which is very easy to learn. And the course has very good resources to teach you the basics. They use videos and text, and you have practical lessons where you sit and the instructor comes to you and show. And honestly, I was programming way better than I thought that I was capable of at the end of the course. So, but it's not for, so some colleagues even like completely went to the more to the computer science area. They're not computer science right now, but they work more with this. And some people even took programming as a side learning experience. People did programming too. Some people I know doing their free time.
Very nice. So if our potential applicants are afraid of coding language, it's still learnable. So that's great.
It's great. Don't worry. Don't be afraid of this. It's a good experience.
Our next question, what are your favorite optional courses that you would recommend taking?
I definitely recommend AO and Law, Artificial Intelligence and Law. It was such a good program. But if you want to go outside of law, there were so many interesting courses available. For example, if you want to really go outside of law and computer science, I took History of Jazz. It's such a good course in the arts department. I had colleagues that took folklore. There's theology classes. You're really available to do many different things. Of course, there's stuff more connected to the area. I think there were some very interesting courses available in the computer science department, but they are always changing. So I think it's good to maybe some stuff I suggest and they're not available right now, but there's always interesting things to learn.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the next question. Did you gain any real job experience during your studies? Did you do an internship somewhere or participated in Startup Tartu or other big events?
I didn't look for any internships when I was doing, although I have some colleagues that were looking to this more. The only experience that I had during the program was the IT legal clinic. But in my specific case, my plan was not to stay in Estonia, and I already worked in the field. So I was not maybe looking as hard, but I had many friends that did apply to internships, got to internships straight away, or many after graduating already managed to get in some of the Estonian unicorns, and some are still there. So it's definitely something that is doable. Just in my personal experience, I didn't look for it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Okay, the next question. What are the main differences, I guess it's startups between Brazil and Estonia?
Startups between Brazil and Estonia?
Very tricky question.
It's a tricky question. I think maybe the focus on them, I think Brazil companies, they all start really looking at the Brazilian market as like, it's such a big market. You start somewhere and you're focused on gaining that market. And then you think about going to the rest of South America, going to the US, going to Europe. I think the startups in Estonia are already born with this idea of internationalization, because Estonia, it's a great starting market, but it has the limitation of having 1,329,000, I think. So they already start something thinking of expanding. And maybe this, I think this is even good that you already start your business model, definitely knowing that you need to deal with different like cultures and legislation and approaches. So this is the first one that I think that is a difference.
Thank you so much. Let's move on to the next question. Could you recommend any materials, books, articles, etc., to gain knowledge of crypto assets and the European Union rules?
I think I can, but of course I need to send an email to this. I cannot send, I don't have them in my mind, but I definitely read some interesting stuff. You guys have my email. I can like send it on the chat again. So for those that didn't take it, but I think we're going to have the recording available so you can go and check it out. Email me and I'll be glad to share all the resources that I have.
Yeah, we are going to follow up with the email with the recording. So definitely you will have all of the contacts of Isabela. for the later contact. Okay, next question. Did your bachelor's degree in IT law allow you to start studying this program easy, considering the differences in law between the European Union and Brazil?
So I think to explain a little bit of how it works in Brazil and then explain like how it worked for me, in Brazil, you do a Bachelor of Law in 5 years. Is the minimum time. It's a general Bachelor of Law. After this, you apply to the bar association. It's different from Estonia that you guys here have the attorney and the lawyer. Everyone needs to pass the bar for us. And after that, of course, I did a postgraduate in IP and New Business. This was my second degree, so to say. It did, because I already had done this postgraduate, and of course, like I said, I was working in the area before. I actually started working with this when I was 19. So by the time I entered the program, I had been working for 7 years. It did make it easier for me, some of the subjects, because I already had a bit of a background, but I still learned so much because, again, my focus had been Brazil and a lot of US compared law, and then I had all this background of EU. But definitely, you don't have to have a background in IT to get into the program. I think the requirement for the program is just to have a Bachelor of Laws, and there's specific requirements of time and all of that. And like I said, I have some course mates that came straight from the standard Bachelor of Laws to the program, and they still had a great opportunity, and they were able to learn. I think it's good to make clear that the program is taught by people that are all practitioners of law. Everyone has practical experience, and they are able to provide such good insight that even if you come from a legal system that is completely different, I was lucky that Estonia is civil law based, Brazil is civil law based. A lot of things were easier, but colleagues from mine from common law countries were able to enjoy the program all the same.
Thank you very much. Next question. Was 1 year enough to study IT law in Tartu?
This is a tricky question. Was it enough to learn all the program? Yes. Could I have studied there many more years? Of course, because it's such an interesting subject and course, and there's always new things appearing. But was it a very productive 1 year? Did I actually learn and acquire so much knowledge? Yes. But I mean, I think I'm gonna do my PhD one of these days because there's still so much to learn.
Definitely, life is never ending learning process. Okay, next question. What did you expect when coming to the University of Tartu, and what was unexpected?
I mean, I expected to be because it was in Estonia and everything I heard about Tartu, that was be a university with a lot of digital resources that I could access, easy communication, that most likely the law department was more modern than law departments from other places I have studied and see courses like. And this definitely was all true. I think especially for the IT law courses, the smart rooms that we have and all these functionalities and the use of different methods of technologies of learning, this was all kind of expected, but it surpassed my expectations. That was unexpected in a good way, the support that I had from the department, from the teachers, how everyone was so open to share knowledge. And I do think this is very Estonian in a way that once you're interested in something, Estonians, if they say they want to help you, they really want to help you. So many of the lecturers in the program are Estonian, but of course we have foreign lecturers as well. But this experience of being able to approach people and be like, I have a doubt in this, can you help me? And the teacher is actually assisting you with this.
Thank you so much, Isabela. Let's move to the next question. I'm very interested in data privacy and blockchain technology and its implication on legal industry. I'm a final year law student. What would be your suggestions and tips?
Oh, there's so many interesting resources. I mean, basic advice is that there's so many interesting institutes and associations that you can access already, being with access to the internet. If you have access to data privacy, you have the International Association of Privacy Professionals and other resources available. If you're a student, you can, I think, get an associate with a smaller fee. And once again, email me. I'm glad to give you some maybe some resources, because there are many interesting books that you can study on this topic.
Thank you so much. Next question. What is your best memory from studying in the University of Tartu?
I mean, there are so many. I was unfortunate that I did my master's right in the middle of the pandemic. I had a first semester 2019 that was great. It was all in person. We were there. Second semester I was still in Estonia, but unfortunately everything was online. But even so, I had a great experience even in the online classes. The second semester was conducted very good. We did all the exams online. Everything worked out fine. But of course this hindered a little bit, but even so didn't stop, because we got so connected, I think, with each other in the first semester, that in the second we were still texting, making sure that everyone was okay. I was isolating because of COVID, and my friends would bring me, fruits and snacks. Maybe this is a good memory. I think the friends and the colleagues that you make, they are as important as the knowledge that you get from this program.
Thank you so much. Next one. If not Estonia and University of Tartu, what country would you have chosen?
This is a tricky one. We're talking about getting you into University of Tartu. Please come. But of course, I think if Europe has so many interesting programs and sister programs from University of Tartu. I know some of our lecturers give classes also in Spain, in Germany, I think someone did in Helsinki. So you can see that there are very interesting programs. I do recommend Europe a lot for someone that works with the subjects of IT law and legal tech, because I really like how the EU and European countries deal with this. But I mean, there's interesting programs in Singapore, in the US, so there's always opportunities for learning.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe let's take the question about the housing. How was your experience looking for housing and in general living in Tartu?
It was easy. When I first moved to Tartu, I went for the shared dorms, because coincidentally I shared a room in my dorm with a course mate from the program. And it was very easy. As soon as I got my approval, I sent the information. There's a very easy portal where you can, there is this company that manages the dorms for University of Tartu. There are certain dorms that are focused for the international students, so it's good. You meet people from all over the world. So yeah, it was a great experience. Later, I moved to another dorm from the housing management company. I just went to a studio by myself. I will say that if you're looking for a one-room apartment or something just for yourself, you might get into a little bit of a waiting list because everyone wants it. But if you don't mind sharing a dorm room with someone, it was very easy. And there are opportunities to rent apartments from private persons in Tartu. It is easy to find, and communication. I think it's not going to be a problem. And the costs are affordable compared to other student towns, so to say.
Thank you very much. I see one question about a startup. What is your favorite Estonian startup and least favorite?
I don't have a least favorite to say, but I think I admire a lot the Estonian unicorns. So you see the experience of Pipedrive, Bolt, Wise. They are, I think when you talk about Estonia, people usually know Wise, Bolt, and Pipedrive. But there are many other very interesting companies. I personally really like Vidif. I really think they have a very interesting business. And I also have two course mates that are in the Vidif legal department. So to show that there are opportunities, and you see people that did the masters in very interesting positions afterwards.
Thank you very much. Let's check the question. Are there any student organizations you would recommend joining?
I mean, There is I have some, I know some people that connected to the Erasmus student network, and they have events, and they, even if you don't join them as official like member, I think it's very nice to participate in their open events. They do trips around Estonia, trips to Helsinki and the Baltics. I think this is a good opportunity to have. There's also the Tartu University, the International Students Ambassadors and they also have very interesting initiatives. I definitely recommend checking them out. But there are so many other opportunities in Tartu. I'm sure you're going to find your club.
Thank you. All right, let's take this question. Do I need to speak Estonian to get a job there? And maybe let's combine it with the question what your course mates are doing after graduation.
So you do not, of course, learning Estonian helps, I think, to live in Estonia in day-to-day life, but there are so many opportunities for English speakers. I think of my foreign course mates, we all are still in the rudimentary Estonian. We graduated 3 years, like 2 years and a half now. People are still learning, and they still manage to find interesting positions. But of course, as you learn Estonian, maybe new opportunities arise. So what are my course mates doing? I mean, it's very diverse. I have course mates that stayed in Estonia to work with AML, so anti-money laundering and like paralegal services for this like unicorns in Estonia. So some people are at WISE, for example. I also had course mates that went back to their countries and got promotions, and now they're like, oh, they were associates, now they're senior associates and growing ever more. I have friends that change jobs. They were working in a specific type of company, and then they assume another position in other companies applying IT knowledge. Friends, they are like prosecutors in their countries. Like I said, one of my course mates, she had a law background as well. Now I think she's working as a cybersecurity analyst. So people were, like I said, 2 course mates are on VERIF. There's some people working for this, like these, of course, Estonians that work for the Estonian government in different capacities. Honestly, the options and opportunities are quite varied.
Thank you so much. I guess we are going to take the last question due to time. Would you consider coming back to Estonia someday if there is a good job opportunity, maybe?
I mean, I'm actually in Estonia right now. Because of this flow that we do between Brazil and Estonia, I actually spend half of my year here, half the year in Brazil, because I work with consulting. So this I didn't say in the presentation. I don't do litigation. We have specific associated from the litigation. Since I do consulting, I can work from anywhere in the world. So being a digital nomad, so to say, in law, I'm lucky that my law firm is also very open-minded in that sense of allowing so. So yeah, I think Estonia is a great country to live. I think a lot of people agree. And if you come to Tartu, there is a chance you might not go back home because you're going to like it so much.
Thank you so much, Isabela, for answering all of the questions and for your talk. Thank you so much to our audience for being with us today. Unfortunately, due to time, we have to wrap up our webinar. But before finishing it, I would like to say a few words for those people who would like to apply to master's program in IT law. The application period is open now, and you can apply before March 15. So please do so. We are also going to have virtual sessions or meetings with our program directors where you can ask any questions related to the program. And we will send you this information together with the recording in our follow-up email. So thank you very much, everyone, for being with us, and hope to see you in Tartu.
See you guys. Thank you.